First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler, taking a look there outside of Portland right now. It is going to be approaching the mid-90s, so I want to let you know there's also an air quality advisory today, so head on over to kptv.com. You can stay up to date with everything that is happening associated with that. Just be careful out there. It's gonna be very warm. But let's continue on and talk about something that's happening a little bit further out in just a little under a month. One of the longest running music festivals here in the Portland area, the Pickathon Experiential Music Festival, is gonna be taking place. We're gonna talk all about the history of it, what's happening this year, what makes it so unique, and doing that, we are joined right now by Zale Schoenborn. Zale, thank you very much for being here with us. Appreciate you joining the show today. You know, to have a music festival run this long is an accomplishment in its own right. And I can only imagine the ups and downs and things, that you've had over the years with that. But for anybody who maybe hasn't been or possibly is unaware of it, can you tell us how this all got started?
Yeah, it was originally something that we thought of as kind of like both of a gathering of all the musical friends we could think of, and we wanted to be a benefit for KBOO. So it was kind of the original idea is what we have now, but flushed out times 1,000. We always wanted to kind of mix up a lot of the essence of music styles, which at that time was quite local. And we've been around, this is, technically 24 years. And we haven't, because of COVID, we couldn't do it for a couple of those years.
Right, but still 24 years. So going back to 1999, starting off as that benefit for KBOO, which, in case anybody doesn't know, great community, local radio station here that always, for a lot of it, promotes local artists. It's a big part of what that is, and that does seem to be, doubling down on what you were talking about with that, having that local aspect of it to it. All of the amazing local musicians that are part of this. Talk about how that's kind of grown over the years.
Well, as we've been able to kind of pull in more of the community, we've also been able to become a much more of a national festival that has kind of changed the lives of musicians. So musicians that are essentially, that come to Pickathon, their lives change. They're able to change. We're kind of now, we grew from that kind of 200 person festival that was to something, now we have 5,000 people that paid, and we do a broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people live, and we're considered a top 10 music festival in the country. In fact, artists that come to Pickathon really are really at the kind of vanguard of their various music scenes. And, they in the last, since 2010, 11, it's been very true that a ton of artists come through. They're usually winning Grammys the next year. Within a couple of years, they're headlining national festivals. They're definitely making the best playlist of those people coming, and it's really awesome. That's kind of like for the local musics that we have, which comes and goes in terms of what scenes are really on fire. We bring those in too, and trying to have that same effect. Nurturing it locally, because Pickathon very much is kind of a culturally reflective of what, Portland has to offer.
And, like you said, you see them before they win the Grammy. So that's where Pickathon's at. I want to talk a little bit more about the live streaming aspect, because you were really at the forefront of that when it comes to music festivals. Even before COVID happened, you were doing this and putting on these big productions. How did you get into that, and tell us about the scale of these productions?
We always had kind of an idea that putting in too many people in a music festival, being a national festival like we are, we're kind of in that, like I said, we're in that kind of the top, we play a top 10, top 5 music festival on TV. We're always kind of talked about, even with the big ones like Coachella, but we have a 20th or less, depends on which festival you talk of the people. And that's on purpose. We do that because we are kind of committed to the experience. We don't want this to be something that is just kind of put together to kind of maximize the profits. And we say that in a kind of joking way. We do want it to be to sustainable, but the experience would be ruined. That experience is kind of the heart of when we say experiential music festival, we think of it kind of like an immersive wonderland kind of built into the scenic, land of Pendarvis Farm. So this is like, as we said, nature is the best vibe. And if you've been to Pickathon, you can understand it's hard if you haven't. And the content really was, the idea there was, okay, we're going to be fixed at this 5,000 paid, and we could do 25, we could probably do 50,000 if we really wanted to. And that would be like the normal way to go. But we said, what if we actually instead build this content idea and we scale that up and we influence pop culture? We try to profit, make that actually part of the sustainable business model. And we were kind of very early into that sphere back in 2010, and we've grown to be probably we have the most significant, content outreach and built out of any music festival, even the big boys, except, live and the live side in Coachella, they tend to grab more people because they're sponsored and brought by Google. But we've always done it as a way to scale, kind of straight up, and think of, the kind of catchy way as like, we like to bend pop culture a little bit into like all this kind of great music that needs to be discovered. And when people see it, it blows them away. And the scale of it is kind of crazy when I tell you. It's been, it can fluctuate. I think at its peak, we're in the 600 to 800 people on a film team, and that's directors. It's just like putting on together a whole nother festival. The festival's like one big film set. You wouldn't know it, but that's the kind of scale you need to kind of do it with the quality we hope to get every year.
How do you handle just the internet structure to even manage that? How do you get all of that out? Yeah, on a farm, which that's to emphasize. Yeah, you're not in the middle of nowhere, but kind of. You're in a forest.
We are in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Happy Valley is now no longer in the middle of nowhere. I'll put that. We used to be in a farmland. We were quickly getting grown around. But yeah, we have a direct connection to Comcast fiber now. That's actually been great. So that actually has changed in the last couple years. But we've done it all. We've done kind of hotspots. We've done. It's nerve-wracking. The actual hardwired is a much better way to go. But it's also just teaching. We have 12 kind of film sets. So that at the festival we're recording 7 live stages. We have 3 to 5 private stage sessions that we're recording. Artists are kind of playing. And then we're doing like 10 to 15 different other productions, interviews, skits, all kinds of things that we kind of plug together, cut, and we create a kind of a live broadcast that is hopefully as compelling as the festival if you can't make it.
Which is an incredible accomplishment. Yes, 600 to 800 people coordinating all of that and all of those different broadcasts. That's a lot of work. This is a lot. Just one show right here. So that's a lot to put together. Looking at bringing in some of those other aspects. You mentioned the music, but there's also, I know, a big culinary aspect as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we going back to that idea that it's kind of the joke we like to say is. It's like Big Rock Candy Mountain. If you know that old hobo song about everything, the lemonade springs and all the kind of things come together. You can just pull your food off the trees and no worries. And so that experiential it's uncommon, and you wouldn't understand if you haven't been to the festival. It's impossible. So if you've been, you'll totally know. If you haven't been, ask a friend. Try to have them describe it to you, but it won't matter because you won't get it until you actually come. And we like to say it's at the nexus of like not just music but art. We have some like installation artists, culinary. We pair both the chefs and food we bring out to the festival. Kind of represents the best of the Northwest. We have a small plate dinner for 80 people that we run 5 of those that kind of bring in the artists, and those tend to be like the James Beard award-winning kind of chefs that we pair. We have kids programming. We have an entire wellness. You can just be there all weekend and not be out of the yoga and sound baths and massage, if that's, and people do, they just kind of get lost in some corner of Pickathon's experience, and they never leave it. Yeah, I mean, we have some of the best design people. So all of the festival is actually a series of design builds with a bunch of award-winning architects and builders. Some of them have won national awards, including the Portland State team, PSU Tree Line Stage. So it's one of those things that we also think about. Kids is like a big deal. We make it possible with that kind of density to like come and bring anybody kids wise, and it's an entire summer camp worth of activities there, and it's kind of important. If you never really thought of it, you never you want to bring kids, it's almost impossible to a big kind of national music festival like ours, but it's really easy when you come to Pickathon. And we also build in camping and the whole site can accommodate, it's 100 acres, 60 of it is just camping. And it's all of those things kind of intermeshed into that immersive kind of wonderland that kind of creates that experience.
Bringing everything together. And
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean to be here in the Portland area? Like, how has that affected how you create the show?
It's core. We wouldn't actually be able to pull this off. So what we've been able to do slowly over time is kind of collaborate, pull in different organizations, for-profit, nonprofit, and figure out a small way that they can enhance the festival. A great example is we work with one of the when I say neighborhoods, we break up the festival into these kind of like, it's an entire like Disneyland or Fantasy Island, or if you want to think of it. And in that kind of experience, there is there's different zones, and each of them are kind of based on time of day and topography. So we try to be in the trees during the day, and at night we try to move out into the shade. Into the meadows under the stars, so that you're not out in the sun. So you're never really in the sun. And in that kind of collaboration, one good example of Portland is we started working with the graduate school at the Portland School of Architecture back in 2013, just through meeting, through one of the dean, Clive Knights, was at Buckman Elementary when I went to school with my kids were going there. We were talking, wouldn't it be great to get your students involved? That would be a really fun thing. And the first year we built a little kind of bamboo enclosure that came from the camping entrance. It was fine. You wouldn't really notice it, but it was kind of the beginning. And since that 2013 and 2014, they got a little more serious. They made a whole class out of it, and it was a kind of a spring and a summer build. So the spring was designed, and they decided, what if we call this, we use type of architecture where all the materials can't be wasted. We're using some material, and it's called diversion architecture, where it actually turns into something else after the festival. So in the first year, it was a bunch of pallets. They took pallets. We built this incredible space called the cafe stage, and it went back to being pallets. In 2014, we decided, well, what if we actually get a little more ambitious, and we carved out an entire neighborhood in Pickathon called the Tree Line Stage. And that was built out entirely out of concrete form tubes that were like 4 feet long. And it was assembled into this massive structure, 32 feet tall. And that year, I think they won an AIA award, which is kind of the big architecture award here in Portland. And the school never won. The students had never won that award. No student had ever won that award. No, this college had never won that award. And every year after that, they've kind of, it's become this incredible banner part of the School of Architecture, where they've continued to win awards. In some years, they built it out of trusses, and that stage had turned into homeless shelters for the Clackamas veterans out in Clackamas County. Another year, we built it out of lumber that turned into the Kenton, women's shelter, small home shelter. So the idea is like, how do we, this idea of what can we do at the festival, and then what can it turn into it afterwards, and has been inspiring for the students. This year, the It's the last 2 years we've actually in a new neighborhood called Cherry Hill, and their actual program is called Forest in a Forest, and it's not just going to be this amazing 32-foot tall sculptural like wonderland that you have to see it on our social media. There's some great videos, but it's going to turn into a installation for the Savannah. On campus, it's going to be a sculpture, basically say, and it's going to just be a permanent installation. And that's what that's a great example of Portland. That is what we've tried to do, is kind of build these kind of links and made it something incredibly meaningful on its own. These students have actually gone on to win, great jobs. It's an amazing, sustainable, great ecosystem.
And to be part
that
of
only can happen in Portland.
Yeah, part of something like that that's right here, that's taking
Yeah.
place. That's a staple. Well, for everybody out there who wants to go experience it, because as we've been saying, or as you've been saying, experiencing it is the best way to actually understand how it all works. What are the opportunities out there right now to go experience it later this year, or later, less than a month away?
Yes, we still have tickets. Will sell out later in the month. So, and we have up till Friday. We have a slight savings you can have. So this Friday, tickets will go up one more time. But we have almost all of our tickets available on Pickathon.com. And for people that one thing that's really important to understand about the festival is we have 54 bands. So if you look at our pricing of our ticket, it ends up being something like $8 a band. Camping is free, and you can come for the day if you want. You can actually take a bike, a shuttle out there. We can pick you up if you didn't want to drive a car. There's parking there on site. There's RVs and car camping on site. And if it's something that's too expensive, we made a conscious choice actually, back in, again, probably like 12, 15 years ago. We're like, should we blow this out and keep it cheap and just make it as crowded as normal festivals? Or should we hold back and keep the quality and have a slightly more expensive ticket? It was like 85, 95%, hold back, just like keep the density. It's one thing that people really loved. It's not too crowded. If you don't like festivals, this is going to be another reason why you might like Pickathon, as that it just doesn't feel like an oppressive environment. But that has a kind of a little bit of a downside, that we have slightly more expensive tickets than your kind of mass commodity fair type festivals. It's far worth it. But the option for those kind of students, kind of people that even couldn't make that, is we have tons of volunteer opportunities still, and we probably will for a couple more weeks, maybe just a week or so. So those are, there's just a variety. Kids are free under 12, and teenagers are half price, because that's just, bringing a family is like really kind of a critical part for us. Is let's make it easy.
That is, there's a lot of options right there to get involved and to be a part of it. Well, Zale, I want to say thank you very much, for taking some time here to talk to us on Fox 12 Now. Appreciate it a lot. Congratulations on all the success and being something, this big that's here right in our area, something that everybody can go out and experience if they want to, if they get their ticket ahead of time. So they can go check that out. And Pickathon.com, is that the best place to go to find out any more information?
Absolutely. That's everything you need is there.
All right, Zale, appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there we go. So that is fascinating, finding out more about Pickathon, again, happening right here in the Portland area, so something you can go check out. And we've got more coming up here on Fox 12 Now. We're going to be right back at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Well, that's a couple of minutes, so I'll be right back on in a couple of minutes. We're going to be joined by the Slumberkins. So you may not know what that is. If you do know, you probably have a kid, and that's also a show that's on Apple TV+. They're based locally right out of here, right out of the Portland area as well. They've got a whole thing going on with the Jim Henson Company and a new album coming out, so we're going to talk about that. So that's coming up. So wherever you're watching us, just join right back in a couple more minutes, and I'll see you then. This is Greg Nibbler, Fox 12 Now.